Budapest is awesome. I was born and raised here, I love living here, but as we make more and more videos about the city and see some of your feedbacks and comments, we start to see that there are areas where the city definitely needs to improve. So in this video, I would like to talk to you guys about some of these things that I personally think the city Budapest has to fix. Now, a small disclaimer, we will not touch upon things like politics or economics. We are not experts. Our focus are on things that have an impact on how you as a visitor to Hungary and Budapest will experience the city. So let's dive into those now. So the first thing I want to talk about is related to tipping culture. Now, normally, if you go to a place and you see a price on the menu, you see the same price on your bill, you pay that, and then you pay a tip. But unfortunately, things are a little bit more convoluted here in Budapest. Yes, there are places where you go in and you classically pay a tip at the end. However, there are also places that add a so-called service charge to their bills. And most of the times when a service charge is included, you're not expected to pay a tip. They even put the bank card terminal right in front of you with the final number and you just pay that. But then there are places where even though there is a service charge, they are kinda offering you the possibility of paying a tip. Now, we did get some comments from people who work in this industry, and they said that even if there is a service charge, that mostly goes to the owner, it doesn't go to the employees at all, so they still kind of expect a tip if you had a good experience overall. But from a consumer's perspective, if you have an already expensive price and then 10 to 15% service charge, and on top of that, you're expected to pay a tip, honestly, for me, that's a little bit unacceptable. In my opinion, there should be no tipping at all. People who work in this industry should get a fair paycheck in the end. And from our perspective, it should be just simple. I see a price, I get the bill, I pay that, and that's what matters in the end for me. And since we're talking about service industry, we definitely have to talk about these guys over here, these tokens. Now, if you go to a bar here in Budapest, especially to places where there are concerts held, or you go to like stadiums to watch a match, if you want to buy yourself a drink, you will have to get that in a plastic cup, and that plastic cup will have a surcharge. Now, the thing is that you can return that plastic cup. That's the idea, don't have so much waste, recycle it, but instead of your money, you will get one of these tokens. Now, you can take this to another bar, hand it in, and you get the cup. You don't need to pay extra for the cup in that time. However, if you forget this at home, you can buy another one. And if you forget this as well, more and more will come into your possession, but you will never get your money back. And this is absolutely frustrating if you're a tourist, because you spend a lot on these tokens and in the end you will never see your money. All you will have is some plastic waste. In my opinion, this whole thing about these tokens should be abolished. Just please give us things in glasses, no plastic cups, or even if you do, please don't ask money for that. So the public transport is cheap. The prices for single tickets and passes are cheap, and there is also an extensive discount system which also makes this further cheap. However, if you look at the official description of all the different discounts, you will not understand it. It's difficult to figure out what happens if you are at a certain age with a certain disability, if you have a child, if you're from Europe, if you're from America, or from wherever in the world. And even I get a lot of questions from you guys about what happens if you're 65 years or older, if you have a kid who's like 12 years old, what happens then? And I had to reach out to BKK because some of their descriptions are so convoluted that even I, as a Hungarian, did not understand. Some of the descriptions are different in Hungarian and English, and some just do not make any sense for me. The discount system is super awesome when you understand it, but it's difficult. And I would say BKK, the local public transport company, should simplify the descriptions, make it more easily accessible and more easy to understand for anyone like you who's visiting Budapest. Now, because of this convoluted discount system and how tickets and passes work, it's quite easy to actually make a mistake and maybe buy an incorrect ticket. And if you do make a mistake, chances are the boogeyman of the public transport here in Budapest, the inspectors, will find you and they will fine you. And these encounters may be a little bit troublesome because, in my opinion, the empathy level of the public transport inspectors and their communication skills definitely need a bit of an improvement. We do get a lot of comments from some of you guys who have been fined by the inspectors and had a terrible experience with them. And in all honesty, I know their job isn't easy, and trust me, several years ago, they basically spoke no English at all and had little to no empathy. So in my opinion, they could be trained a little bit more with better communication, more empathy. They could convey their messages more easily. And even if you make a mistake and you have to pay a fine, you may walk away with a less negative experience. Getting from the Budapest airport into the city center using public transport can be a little bit confusing. Right behind me, this is bus 100E, and at the airport you also have bus 200E. Now, what is the difference between them? If you are in the city, you will see that trams, buses also have numbers. So can I use the same single tickets and passes on this bus just like on the others? No. The thing is that, in my opinion, because this is a special service bus, it should not even have a number. That is causing a lot of confusion, and the fact that it's also blue, just like the other buses that we have here in the city, maybe rename it, maybe have a different color so that you immediately see that this is a different bus. It's a special service bus with a special service ticket, and your regular passes and tickets are not working on these. But in my opinion, the bigger problem is that we have buses coming into the city center and they are using the same routes as like everybody else. Because of this, in the end, when there is a jam during public rush hours, and you want to get with the bus into the city center, you may be stuck in that jam. So in the end, what would be the solution? Well, a train line. When we used to have the old Budapest airport, there was a train going to it, but since then we have a bigger and newer airport, but only the buses go all the way there. And hopefully one day there will be a direct train line, because whenever I travel abroad and there's a train from the airport into the city center, those are always the most convenient ways. And I hope that one day Budapest will also have something like that. Just like in any other big city in the world, Budapest also has taxis. And I'm really happy that we have Uber and Bolt, because those are really convenient. But when we talk about taxis, what is the thing we always say in our videos? If you're subscribed already, you probably know, never get into a taxi that is marked as a freelancer. And you may be wondering, why is that the case? Well, freelancers do not belong to companies. They do not work under certain companies like Bolt, Uber, or these guys here work under Hot 6x6. They are reliable because there is accountability, there's a company behind them, there is a customer support. But when it comes to freelancers, they may tinker with the taximeters, they may take you on a terrible route that will cost you a lot more money. So even if the taxi prices in Budapest are regulated, the freelancer taxis kind of find a way around this, and in the end, they kind of will scam you, likely. We're not saying all of them are scammers, but we do get a lot of comments and we do see a lot of feedback about some terrible experiences with freelancer taxis. So in the meantime, never get into a cab that is marked as a freelancer. But how should Budapest improve? Freelancer cabs should just be banned. No cab should be roaming the streets that is not belonging to a company. During winter time, one of the highlights here in Budapest for visitors are the Christmas markets. And right here in front of the Basilica is also one of the famous Christmas markets. But there's also another one at Vörösmarty Square, and a lot of people are visiting these. However, there is a problem with how the prices are done and what food is being served there. Because all the food that you can see at Christmas markets are super expensive. If you compare the prices to what you get in restaurants, but also you compare the quality, those are not in line for what they're selling here at these Christmas markets. We as locals do not speak very highly of these Christmas markets because of the prices that we can see there. And also, we always ask the question, we see a lot of food, and we don't see that many people buying them, what happens with all that food the next day? Perhaps if they would sell less food at higher quality and at more reasonable prices, then even we as locals would come more to these Christmas markets, and maybe they would be a better experience for all of you who visit Budapest. And if you visit a Christmas market, the vibe is there, it's nice, but if you buy something, you may have a sour taste in your mouth. Now, before we continue with this video, we hope that you guys enjoy the content that we make. We put a lot of effort into our videos, and if you want to support the work that we do, you can do so simply by just clicking the like button. However, you can also support us with the thanks button. Through that, you can send some donations to us, but you can also become a regular supporter by clicking the join button. Then you will be in a group of some super awesome people. And finally, you can always see that I'm wearing some Stuffed Cabbage branded stuff in all of our videos. These are also available as merch. We will leave a link down in the description to our shop so you can check out what's available. We appreciate all the support that we get. And now, let's get back to the video. The parliament here in Budapest is arguably one of the highlights of the city. It has a gorgeous architecture and it has a rich history, and you can visit the insides. However, when you try to buy a ticket, the price will depend on where you are actually from. Because if you are not a citizen of the EU or the EEA, then you'll be paying double the price, like us who are from the EU. And honestly, this is a very stupid system. Why are we discriminating? Why are we asking for double the price of people who are just not part of the EU? The insides and the tour, I think it's fascinating and it's interesting for the price that we pay here as locals or citizens of the EU. But if you are from the outside and you pay double that, I think the experience and that cost is definitely not in line with each other. Now, the other problem is when you do decide to buy a ticket. The ticketing system is a mess, to be honest. You go online, you check what are the available dates and available languages. Most of the time, you will see that it is sold out. But in reality, they are releasing tickets and groups at a very random times. You may see that it's sold out, but in reality the next day or a few days later, few slots may become available. Or if you come here in the morning, you might be lucky and get a ticket for a group that they just announced for that day. This is a very frustrating process, and we see a lot of comments from all of you who try to visit this place but see that it is sold out. However, in the end, you don't really know if you could actually get in if you just look at the ticketing website at a different time. So all in all, what should change? The prices should be the same for everybody, irrespective of where you are coming from. And also, the whole ticketing website should be reliable. You should see upfront when and what free slots are available, and you should have the convenience of trying to see a time slot that is available for you and buy your tickets. Now that we have mentioned a few things where Budapest should improve, I'm really curious about your opinion. If you have visited the city, what do you think? What are the things where Budapest should improve in the future? Or what are the things that are similar to where you live? Tell us in the comments below, because we're really curious what you guys also think about this. The Buda Castle Funicular is a historic vehicle. It's in operation for more than 100 years, and if you come to Budapest, likely you want to take this up to the castle. Unfortunately, the ticket price for this is extremely high. It's 5,000 Hungarian forints, and there is only one type of ticket, which is the return ticket. You can take it up and then come down with it, but in my opinion, there should be another type of ticket that's the one-way ticket, and in general, the prices should be much cheaper. This is a historic vehicle, as I said. It's fun to ride it, you should experience it, but definitely not for this price. However, whenever I look here, there's always a huge queue. There's certainly people who don't mind paying so much, but if there would be an opportunity for people for a lesser price to experience this, that would be brilliant. When you explore a city and walk for several hours, in the end, chances are you'll likely need to use the restroom. And the thing is that here in Budapest, they are really hard to find, and whenever you do, they may cost some money and they may not be so well maintained. In my opinion, it should be like a basic human right to have quick and easy access to a public restroom. But here, they are really, really hard to find. Sometimes when the urge comes, you may need to go to like a cafe, a bar, or a restaurant and spend some money there and use the restroom there. Or you can go to a plaza, but then you have to maybe walk for several minutes. The thing is that Budapest should have more public restrooms, they should be easy to access, they should be free in my opinion, and they should also be well maintained. One of the cool aspects of just walking around in Budapest is to check out some of the gorgeous old historical buildings. But unfortunately, some of those buildings will be a bit too modern and even ugly in my opinion. Like for example, this here is the Hotel Intercontinental. I don't know what they thought when they were building this. It's super ugly in my opinion. And then there's also the Hotel Marriott. This here, the Danube riverbanks, this is supposed to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of the historical buildings that we have here, and yet we have some of these here. Now, I'm not saying that they should demolish these. No, they should not do that. But for example, right next to the Intercontinental Hotel, there is another one which is being renovated at the moment. And instead of somehow preserving the old historical buildings here, they will make another even more modern building. And I think what they should do is to try and make sure that all the buildings that are built new or the ones that are being renovated are more in line with the historical view of the city. As you may have heard, Budapest is super famous for the thermal bath culture. But unfortunately, when we talk about thermal baths, most of the time we can talk about 3 establishments. The most popular ones are Széchenyi, Rudas and Gellért. And these often get super crowded. So even us as locals don't really go to these places, and while there are a few other thermal bath houses, I feel that Budapest needs a bit more. We used to have some places like the Rácfürdő or the Királyfürdő, which are not operational today, unfortunately. But if there would be more places for people to just experience the pure thermal bath culture without the spectacle of some of these really popular establishments, then maybe, just maybe, even us as locals would go more frequently to some of these thermal bath houses. So in the end, I just wish Budapest had a bit more thermal bath houses available for us to visit. Now that we have covered the thermal bath topic right here at Gellért Thermal Baths, this actually brings me to my next topic, which is about how Budapest promotes some of the alternative attractions and areas of the city, or the lack thereof. Because unfortunately, people come here to Gellért Thermal Bath, but then miss out on this boulevard right here, which is the Bartók Béla Boulevard. This has a lot of excellent restaurants, bars, antique shop. It's a really cool and hip area. But whenever I look online on what Budapest is promoting, it's always the same things. It's always the thermal baths, the castle, the parliament. But there are so many other interesting areas. I would say that if you come to Budapest, you could easily spend a whole week here. There's so much to see, so much to experience, but the city doesn't really do a lot in terms of promoting some of these activities. Now, we try to do our best, but it would be good if the city would also highlight some of these cool other areas. This here is one of the more popular areas of Budapest, especially during the night, because of all the bars and restaurants that are located here. However, what I'm gonna say may not be liked by people who are driving cars, and that is that a lot of these streets here should be turned into walking streets. As you can see, the sidewalk is super narrow, people are bumping shoulders all the time, you may even sometimes walk on the street. And then you get in front of a car, which is dangerous. And that is why I would suggest maybe some of the more popular streets here, like Dob utca, this one, or Király utca, the other one, should be turned into a walking street. It would be a much safer way and a much more pleasant way to experience this popular area. Now, Budapest may have a lot of things to improve in, but it's still an awesome and an amazing city. And more people will be coming here in the next few years. But that brings me to my last thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is how Budapest is kinda thinking about what happens when over-tourism will happen here. If you look at Prague or Barcelona, where there are so many people that it's really difficult to enjoy some of the sights, what happens when Budapest gets so many visitors. And I think that is one of the most important things, how Budapest can prepare when more and more people come, what these people can do, what will be the sites that they can see, where will be their accommodation, how the public transport will work during that time, and most importantly, what other things they can do, how to make other areas popular, day trips, what happens if you've been here, want to come back and experience more, because Budapest has so much more to offer, and I hope that one day there will be some initiatives on how to counter over-tourism. But in the meantime, we try to promote the city as much as we can, and if you want to know what else you can do here, then check out some of our other videos, and perhaps also subscribe to the channel so that in the future you see more awesome content that we make about Budapest and also about Hungary. Thank you very much for watching, and see you guys in the future videos. Bye!